Welcome to Wellness Rebranded. We know there is so much conflicting health and fitness advice out there.
And you're tired of the wellness fads, endless diets, and impossible standards that make you feel like nothing you do is ever enough.
You're ready to tune into your mind and body and feel empowered around health.
We're the Healing Trio here to help you redesign your relationships with food, fitness, and yourself.
I'm Elizabeth, registered dietitian and certified intuitive eating counselor.
I'm Maria, licensed mental health therapist.
And I'm Tara, personal trainer.
Together, we're changing the narrative on health away from diet culture, hustle culture, and toxic positivity and towards healthful self-care.
So grab your water bottle, get ready to laugh, learn, and grow.
And let's start rebranding your wellness journey.
Welcome back to another episode of Wellness Rebranded. I'm Elizabeth here with Tara and Maria, and today we are talking about don't get sidelined by an injury and what to do if you are when it comes to your fitness routines.
Thanks so much. So guys, I have to be honest, Elizabeth was the inspiration for this episode because during our training session yesterday, during an exercise she's done millions of times, somehow something happened and her calf was not happy.
No, it's still not happy. And
what happened?
I have no idea. I was doing butt kicks, right?
Yep, super
after
common.
I had been jump roping and doing
Yep.
other things. And
You were
I
doing butt kicks while you were kicking some butt.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I felt like a pop or a pull or something, and it was sharp shooting pain. And then since then, I was able to finish our session, but we just switched to doing upper body stuff. And then
Which is what you should do, by the way.
yeah, the first day or two, I sort of was hobbling around. It really was the worst going downstairs. I could not go downstairs without like walking funny and limping and kind of like ouching.
Miserable.
And really, I'm hopefully it's recovering, although I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, let's hope so. But in the meantime, in case you're dealing with like a persistent nagging injury, or if you had something acute like Elizabeth, here's what you want to do. So typically what I recommend is give it a few days and see if it's getting better. Of course, you can always do like classic first aid for something like this, like the rest, ice, compression, elevation. If you've got
Bubble
like
baths, that's
right,
what I did.
a sprained ankle or something, then like you definitely want to get ice on it. But if it's a little bit more ambiguous the way Elizabeth's injury was, I usually recommend resting and giving it a few days and just kind of like reevaluating to see where you're at. If it seems to be getting better on its own, I would just continue the plan, right? If the plan's working, don't change it. But if it definitely feels like it's not getting any better, or God forbid it's getting worse, time to go see your doctor. You want to loop your doctor in on this, and they can help you make a game plan on what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing.
So I always wonder, I was wondering specifically when this happened, but I recall it coming up frequently in the past is like, so do you stretch it or not stretch it? Like I'm always like trying to figure out what does it need?
So that's a good question. And something like this that's a little ambiguous can be kind of iffy. But in general, if you know that you like overstretch something, right? Like if this injury was in your quad, I would be like, oh my God, don't stretch it, because we definitely like strained it by stretching too far because of what the exercise was. But since this is in your calf and your calf was contracted at that moment, I don't think stretching would necessarily be a bad thing, just because it's not a pull. If anything, it's like slightly torn.
But the average person, as in myself, would not, I wouldn't know the difference.
Right, so you can't hurt it by not stretching it. It'll just take it longer for it to heal. But you could do more damage if you did stretch something that was already fussy, overstretched. So when in doubt, don't stretch it. But if you know that it's something that won't be affected by stretching, then go for it.
Hey, Elizabeth, I'm so sorry that happened. by the way.
Thank you.
I'm sure it's
You know
not
what was
gonna
like
hurt a
the
lot.
saddest part for me is that I have been on vacation for the last 2+ weeks, and I did a lot of walking and some hiking while I was on vacation, but I was really looking forward to just coming back and getting in my more normal exercise routine. And then that happened.
Super disheartening when that happens.
Yeah,
You know?
I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty sad, but hopefully it will be short-lived.
And Tara, I never know the difference of when to put cold packs on an injury or when to do warm. stuff.
So warm almost always is going to feel better, but it's not always doing healing things. In the olden days, we used to say like ice, 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 all the time ice. And that's still true if you know it's going to swell. Like if you stepped off a curb or something and sprained your ankle, like you definitely want to put ice because swelling is going to inhibit healing, right? So keeping ice on it is going to prevent that. But now we're thinking, if we put too much ice, we don't get enough blood flow, which also inhibits healing. So there's like a real debate about this in the industry right now, which is, not helpful for the rest of us.
Okay.
But heat usually makes things feel better. So something like if you strain your lower back or, your shoulders kind of fussy or whatever, like absolutely hop in like a hot tub or a hot bath. And just let it relax. I once was in a car accident and just super, super minor, like the light turned green, we went, the lady behind me didn't stop when the car in front of me stopped, so it was a very low speed accident, but my lower back was totally messed up because when I got home from the accident, my neighbor's kitten was hiding in the bushes and meowed at me, and I moved like really, whoa, like strangely, and that was like the catalyst for my lower back being injured. Whereas if that hadn't happened, I probably could have walked inside and stayed straight without rotation, and my back would have healed itself from the accident. If you have heated seats in your car, this is a great time to turn them on because that would really make your back feel better. So 5 things you want to do when you have an injury. First, you want to talk to your doctor and get a game plan. Give it a couple days. Once you decide it's doctor time, clue them in because they'll be able to give you some do's and don'ts on what to do, things to stay away from, and they'll also tailor it a little bit towards your activities. So if you're a golfer, you might have different restrictions than an equestrian.
Right.
And also they'll be able to kind of assess and diagnose it.
Yes.
Like right now, for example, I don't really know what
we don't
happened.
really know what it is.
And treat it, once they know,
Yep.
then they can suggest some treatment.
Second thing we need to do is not rush back too quickly. So the
Yeah, this
guideline...
is the hard one.
I know. The guideline is that your recovery should be twice as long as the time the injury kept you out of commission. So let's say...
Wait, say that again?
The recovery should take twice as long as the time that you were out of commission due to the injury. So let's say you're out of commission right now since Tuesday, and let's say it's been 5 days. For the next 10 days of exercise, you should be like easing back into it. You can't just jump back in like, yep, I'm healed, let's go.
Yeah.
You need to like ease back in and take it gradually.
That's a good tip.
It's super common to compensate for injuries. So frequently if we have like a lower body injury, our opposite hip will start hurting
100%.
because we've been like
I've been
babying
walking
it.
funny all week.
Yes. So it's super common to get an injury in a different spot once you have an injury.
I one time broke my foot and I was in a boot for 3 months. It didn't heal. Then I had to go have surgery. I was in a boot for another 3 months. So I basically was in a boot for 6 months, and I do feel honestly like it took me a year to get back to normal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially because boots change your like leg length.
Yes.
So you've been walking like
That's
cockeyed for
awful.
6 months, and now your
Yes.
back is all jacked up.
And
So
now,
it can bring a whole new set of pains and
Yes.
aches.
Totally.
Yeah.
Number 3, when you come back from your injury, start with small goals. If you were a golfer or something, don't go back out and just hit 18 holes your first day out. Right? If you're a dude bro, don't go into the gym and load up the bar and start doing what you used to do. You need to start small. Maybe go hit some balls at the driving range or start with some body weight and band work.
so we're not going
Right.
to be doing another HIIT workout next time I train with you.
Not another HIIT workout. It'll be more of a recovery workout for at least the next 10 days.
Yeah, it's like sometimes maybe we have the feeling that we have to gain that time that we were not exercising.
Yeah.
Yes, you have to make up for
right,
it.
make up for it. And then you're interrupting actually your healing
Yes.
process,
Yeah.
not giving it its place.
Well, and also think about how many people, and I'm certainly guilty of this in my past, for sure, just push through an injury.
Yes.
Or ignore it, or...
That's why people end up with like persistent nagging, like, oh, my shoulders hurt for 10 years, like because they didn't handle it when it was appearing.
Hey, and we not only do it with our bodies, we do it with our emotions too. Like a situation that we don't like or make us feel really uncomfortable, but then we push through it and we go over again, or
Avoid
something
it.
that we really don't like, but we don't say anything, and we, keep dealing with it without,
Yeah.
and then because it happens with therapy too, it's like then 10 years later, it's like now I'm
The
gonna
wound
go
has
see a
festered.
professional.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
So really, we
same.
need to change our relationship with discomfort.
No, and listen to our bodies way more. If you have an injury, let it be, and it's okay to rest it out. It's
Yeah.
okay to
Yeah.
pay attention to it.
Life is not a race.
Right? You're
You know.
not less productive because you're at home resting from an injury.
Yes.
I mean, you are less productive technically, but
Yeah.
no, you're giving yourself
You're
what you
doing something.
need.
You're doing a
Grace.
different kind of productivity.
Yeah.
I'm healing.
Yes,
Yes.
healing. Right. They say that a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. So just take that first small step and eventually you'll get back there. I do want to point out though, like just because you have, let's say, an ankle injury doesn't mean you can't work the other like 75% of your body.
Yes,
There's
I got
a lot
really
of
creative when I
people-
was in a boot for 6 months about
Yes.
how like I found all these interesting yoga videos online, like people doing it in a boot actually.
Yeah.
that I could do.
I
and
imagine that would help you get a deeper stretch on a couple things. Like
maybe,
using
I
the
don't
weight
know,
of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, I agree.
I feel like a lot of people go, "Oh, I'm injured. I can't come to the gym. I can't do any of my like normal life stuff." And really, you should continue to work the rest of your body, particularly if you have an injury on like your right side, for example. Research have shown us that if we work our left side and continue strengthening the left, the right will actually get stronger.
Yeah, isn't that so cool?
Yeah.
I've heard that before actually.
Yes.
The body is fascinating.
I love it.
Okay, say that again.
So let's say you hurt your right ankle
Okay,
and you can't do anything with this leg.
okay.
But you go to the gym and you do a bunch of single leg stuff and you work on strengthening your left leg. Your right leg will actually get stronger because of that.
Wow.
Yes. So it's definitely like if you have an injury, don't stop moving. Just, if you're not sure, I would definitely talk to a trainer, a physical therapist, a doctor, someone to give you some guidelines on what you should do and shouldn't do in regards to your specific injury. But you definitely should still be moving.
And also it will help you keep the routine up.
Yes.
Right?
Super important. Consistency is the secret to success with like darn near everything. So if we get out of our consistent patterns, that's going to be detrimental to our success.
I really am fascinated about that. You can like strengthen it without actually working it.
Yep.
I really want to know how that works, like physiologically.
I had no clue.
It actually happens with the brain, like
Yeah.
the signals crossing like the corpus callosum and all that. So your brain is like the catalyst for that.
Super cool.
Love that.
All right. Item number 4. Don't ignore your pain.
What we were just
Pain
talking
is
about.
important. Pain is telling your body that something's not normal here. The guideline for pain is if it's a slow onset burning pain, it's probably okay. You can push a little bit harder. And if that feels fine and it's maintaining, keep going. If all of a sudden you get an acute onset stabbing pain, much like Elizabeth's incident the other day, that's when you stop with that. You don't push through that. You don't continue that. Being a hero is like you're not a hero for continuing
For getting hurt
to
further.
injure yourself. Rehab is not the time to push through pain. You definitely want to check in and make sure your body's feeling okay before, during, and after exercise. If you're doing something that you consider to be gentle, but the day after it's just unbearable, like maybe that wasn't the right thing for you. So we need to check in with that.
So I love that. Pain is a way of your body communicating something.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's there for a reason.
Yes.
And if you guys remember like Gold's Gym from like the 90s, they had t-shirts everywhere that said, pain is weakness leaving the body. Like, no. It is not.
I don't remember that, but I hate that.
Yes, that saying is all over the place on gym t-shirts and bumper stickers and whatnot. And it's completely false. Pain is your body's way of communicating with you to say, hey, you're not doing
Keeping you
something
safe.
right here.
Yeah.
Right. Your
Do
brain's
you wonder
goal.
who comes up with those things? Like, really? Who came up with that?
Probably
Hopefully
Arnold.
It's like
they
that
meant
saying, no pain,
something-
no gain. I hate that saying.
Yes.
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 Agreed. So pain is definitely your brain's way of saying, like, hey, we need to keep you safe. Please don't do this thing.
Thank you, brain.
Pause or redesign how you're doing it.
Yes. Reassess. Last thing. Do get back to what you love once you're ready. Just because you hurt yourself doing something doesn't mean you should quit on that thing forever. Right. I would ease back with caution, right? Don't just jump back in the next time you go to work out. Don't start with butt kickers.
Don't get discouraged.
Don't get discouraged. Yeah. Setbacks happen all the time to many people and many reasons. So make sure you're just kind of easing back in, like the example with the golfing, right? Go to the driving range and do a few things and make sure that feels good before you commit to 18 holes, right? So just kind of ease back in, and then make sure you do it because you don't want to have a mental block of I can't do that thing, right?
When I was a kid, I had a terrible bike accident. My family's house was at the top of a hill. And there was a long flat stretch before, you drive down the road, drive straight, get to my house, and then the hill happened.
Oh, okay.
So I was at the top of the straight part with friends. We were biking and I think having a race, and I'm a product of the 70s. So I was wearing Dr. Scholl's. Do you guys know what those are? Riding my bike with my Dr. Scholl's on, and we were racing to my mailbox, which is all well and good unless you forget to stop, which I did because I think I was super excited I was winning. So I kept going, and I panicked and forgot to use the brakes. So instead, I dragged my feet on the road to try to stop myself down. But I was wearing Dr. Scholl's.
Yikes.
So I totally cut the tops of my feet. I ran into this tree at the bottom of the hill in the neighbor's yard. That I never ever wanted to ride my bike again after that. And I remember distinctly my dad, once my injuries were healed, forcing me essentially to get back on the bike and ride it for that season.
Yes.
You can't go your whole life without riding a bike. But even though it seemed not so great at the moment, at the time I do like riding bikes. So I guess his practice worked if it wasn't unconventional at the moment.
Anyway, girls, those are my top 5 tips for dealing with an injury.
That's great. And
use your best judgment.
And don't have to do it alone. I love the part where you say, get the guidance from a professional.
Absolutely.
Yes.
To go back into movement and keep doing what you want to do. So you honor your healing at the same time. Don't get discouraged and go out there and do what you want to do. Thank you for listening. If you want to connect with me outside of this podcast, you can find me on Instagram at coaching_therapist.
I'm Elizabeth. You can find me at Elizabeth Harris Nutrition or in my Facebook group, Health and Healing with Intuitive Eating.
And I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Tara De Leon Fitness. Guys, if you loved this episode or any of our other episodes, we would love it if you would leave us a review on Apple Podcast. It really, really helps us get the non-diet word out to the rest of the world. So please leave us a review.
Yes, thank you.